Bren, it's time for another script. Get to writing. Chop chop. Hate it when my writer does that. Well, better ask the fans for some help after I clean that up. Oh no. Hi everybody, Noobert here with another video for you, RimWorld loving fans. Fans who, in this video, have submitted their advice and fun facts for new and returning players to learn from. So while watching, see if your name comes up and comment if you've made it. I also wanted to thank everyone and explain why we have had so many sponsors lately before getting this video started. No, there's no sponsor in this video, don't worry. At the moment, me and my fiance have gotten engaged. She lives in the Philippines, that means I'm there too. And we have been fighting a financial uphill battle to come back to the USA. I left to meet her in May this year, and I thought it would only be a month round trip deal where she could get a visa as easily as I did, and we would go to America. That has turned out to be a lot longer process with more hurdles than I can count. Even just to have her visit my family for 3 months is an ordeal. I know not everyone is a fan of every sponsor we do, and that's completely reasonable. In my case, I'm in a foreign country, drowning in bureaucracy, trying to bring my future wife home, and have used every tool at my disposal to get us the resources we need to go complete the requirements for us to go home together. By no means is it an excuse for taking sponsors. That said, you all deserve to know why there's so many so suddenly. Thanks a bunch for everyone's support. We couldn't be here without you. We really wouldn't. We've come a long way with everyone's help. Now, as always, I should also point this out since we get so many comments. No, I'm not an AI. I'm not. I'm really not. But it's very entertaining that so many people think that. I do laugh. But we can clear that up now. It's gone on for a while. Anyways, now like I always say, sit back, relax, comment if you learned something, you got advice you didn't know about, and watch as I go over a ton of great fan advice for surviving out on the rim. First up, advice from yours truly. Well, actually, I got 2 pieces of advice for you. Yes, 2 pieces. 2, 1, 2. Yes, 2. First off, if you have Odyssey and are planning to carry prisoners on your ship, I recommend making a hallway that has a vent to the outside, meaning no roof on it. If you are out in space and have prisoners in the ship during a prison break, the hallway that's open to a vacuum will wound and weaken any escaping prisoners. It won't stop them. Given unlike FTL, prisoners can go through doors during a prison break, but wounding and putting them into intense pain helps for making sure you can non-lethally take them down. Advice number 2. If you care about wealth management and all the micromanaging it can come with, do not smooth floors. I say this because apparently smooth floors keep their wealth even if you floor over them. Smooth walls are fine because you can smash them and build something there later, if you need, of course, to do some reductions. It may not seem like much, but in the case of the late game, a bit of wealth management can mean the difference between a squad of pirates with 1 doomsday rocket launcher or 20. Oh no. Next up, Citizen Flopper brings up a good way to deal with a bunch of old clothing. There is an option in the crematorium that lets you burn apparel. Just set it to anything below 50% value and boom! Colonists will get rid of them old hand-me-downs. Citizen Flopper and Laguruzu both bring up a similar bit of information. It's about shelving. Did you know if you can put shelves into an entire room and pawns won't mind climbing over them? Yeah, turns out the penalty for going over a shelf is only for the first time they climb up. If a room is full of nothing but them shelves, they move around without penalty. It may not look right, but apparently for one's hoarding tactics, it works well. Next up, on the subject of old clothing from before, Salted Coffee's information can be pretty good for the nitty-gritty automation. He says for apparel, have pawns set to 50 to 100%, so pawns will constantly drop clothing that wears too much. For production, 60 to 100% until you have one. This basically means when you have an item on the bench, the pawns won't make more, but if a pawn grabs a replacement piece of clothing that tells your other pawns to make more of that item, this will keep going until everyone is wearing that item or you run out of material to make it. Yeah, for burning or a remote stockpile, set apparel to 0 to 60%. This way, there is an overlap for pawns getting new clothing but losing old clothing. Honestly, good bit of advice, though assume you must always have a steady flow of resources, and having a pawn whose only purpose is tailoring might also be a good choice on your end. Patches Gaming has a fun tip that makes use of the grav ships from RimWorld Odyssey. When you got a grav ship and the ability to make vac suits, just go to the coldest biome and, well, for lack of better terms, chill. If you don't know the worst vac suit, that being awful can insulate to a negative 129 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 72 degrees Celsius. Needless to say, surviving out in ice sheets isn't impossible with grav ships. Let enemy raids show up and take advantage of the cold and weather to beat everyone back. Just remember, vac suits aren't heavily armored, so keep that in mind, it's not an invincible shield. He also mentions as a bonus point to use Anomaly's Dead Life shells for an army of frozen corpses, and biotech to make your pawns even more cold resistant. Decent enough options to say the least, though the Walking Dead on ice wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've seen. Anon. An anonymous person suggested to have 2 doctors in the colony on split schedule. This way, during any point of the day, someone can tend to wounds, infections, or perform surgeries without being angry for being woken up. This is especially great if one of them is proper night owl. Honestly, makes a lot of sense, so whoever you are, thanks. Good tip for the community. This also goes with what Jack4044 brings up, that proper night owls are invaluable for any colony. If everyone was asleep during a problem, it can mean in an emergency, less time to react. This also means some jobs like cleaning, hauling, crafting, and cooking can be done 24/7 and keep the flow going in any colony. He also suggests if you have a night owl to try and set them up with a lover. Even if they aren't a night owl, scheduling them in the same schedule and jobs can have them more likely get romantic, and that romance means happiness. And happiness, well, that means less mental breaks and having someone do the hula like a maniac. Lady Lala sent us multiple tips, and they mostly involved chickens. The humble hen and rooster, a great farm animal for the ability to lay eggs and provide plenty of fast-growing meat. However, apparently a hen and rooster can eat less nutrients a day than they provide per day by eating nothing but hay grass and kibble made from vegetables and meat from newly hatched chicks. You can technically have a profit of nutritional value. Pretty neat fact, but did you also know that if you really are desperate for food, you could always make kibble for your colonist? Yeah, turns out kibble has no chance for food poisoning and can be made of terrible meat that makes colonists upset, like human meat, insect meat, and Anomaly's twisted meat. The downside, I don't think anyone wants to eat bachelor's chow, even if it's technically an efficient and healthy food item. By the way, if you are planning to actually have egg-laying animals, set up a nearby warm room whose only purpose is to store fertilized eggs in there. This way, in the event your animals might get hungry, they don't decide to have a raw omelet. Finally, chickens have another great use. If you have a kill-focused persona weapon or a bloodthirsty pawn, just have them kill some chickens. You are raising them for meat anyway. Doesn't matter if it's calling for food or pleasure till getting that meat. Firearms advice has to do with placement of the kitchen and freezer. He suggests keeping the only way into the kitchen is via the freezer. This prevents other pawns from showing up and tracking filth into the kitchen, plus speed up kitchen work. I also recommend, as an additional thing, to have the butcher table either in the freezer or in a room also near the freezer, just not in the kitchen. Blood and guts usually don't go well in a clean environment, last I checked. Treedoll also brings advice for freezers. If you want to set up a good freezer, set up 4 walls in a square formation with the roof open in the middle. Then set up the 4 AC units right there, with the heat excess going out into the chimney. Boom. Now you have a walk-in freezer without the added risk of some jerk breaking down your summer cooler. Remy120's advice for keeping a food supply is sound. If you are relying on simple meals, what you want to do is set up two bills, both the same. Cook bulk simple meals till X and cook simple meals till X. Same number for both. This is so your pawns will constantly be cooking meals, and you either get a lot at once with bulk cooking, but you don't stop making meals if you only have just enough to say 2.5 meals. That can be the difference in the early game. For mid game, you of course can set it up for whatever meal of choice you are focusing on. Same with other meal preps that have bulk options. So Doc the Doomed and Dr. Wicked both have prisoner advice. Doc the Doomed mentions that because healthy and armored prisoners tend to cause more prison breaks, you can use Sanophages to feed their hemogen off them constantly to keep them weakened, both to slow down the rate of prison breaks, or in the case of a prison break, you got a weaker prisoner. Dr. Wicked, which by the way I find is amusing, two doctors are giving prisoner advice, says you should make beds out of stone and intentionally try to make the lowest quality bed. That's because it ruins rest effectiveness, which means they are constantly sleeping. Can't go on a prison riot if you are too sleepy to riot, on top of having not enough blood to walk. Barring all that, the classic wooden peg leg installation and removal plan is always viable. So our writer Bren has some mechanoid advice. With the Odyssey DLC, traveling into ruins has been a bit more dangerous due to the explosive hunter traps suddenly appearing and running up to your pawns like a grunt with 2 plasma grenades. Bren's advice? Mechanoids. Sending a mechanoid into an unknown room before your pawn is a good way to scout ahead and not lose any pawns, which is less costly to a campaign. A pawn's limbs and life or steel to resurrect a mech. Which is your choice? For what mechs to use, Scythers are great for their speed and close quarters focus, but later the Tunneler, due to their built-in shield belt. Very tanky. Bren should also mention he took his advice from Rar in his Odyssey video, just so we are transparent here. Yes. If you are running out of resources very often, Doug Rim suggests investing in a long-range mineral scanner. I agree. In the base game, I always felt the long-range mineral scanner wasn't quite as useful or viable as the deep drill method of new resources. But with Odyssey, using either a grav ship or transport shuttle makes traveling back and forth for a quick mining stop easier and more fun, thanks to the potential extra loot in the form of ruins. From Melanosa comes 2 bits of advice. One, in the early game when power is a lot harder to produce, if you have powered items that can turn off, you aren't using actually do that. Seriously, you'd be surprised by how much power you save by just taking a couple of seconds to click them off. A habit me and my writer really needs to get around to sometimes. The main culprits of power drain is the crematorium and the smelter. For the other bit of advice, if a raid happens and you see that alert, don't click it. However, over the alert and you will get arrows pointing to all raiders. Great with larger raids because sometimes they split off in the beginning or during the raid and try and flank you. Pretty useful in the mid to end game. Next up is from GBayJJ08. I can't say this name at all. It's difficult. Comes a bit more raiding advice. Or rather, if you are raided, if the chips are down and you might be losing, just run. No, seriously, if the raid that's coming for your place is too big and you got drop pods, grab ships or transports, just leave and wait on the map. Sure, your place will get smashed up, but eventually everyone will leave, and you can return and rebuild. I know this advice might seem obvious, but a lot of players have that pride to stand and fight. But remember, it's fight or flight, or flight or fight. One of the two. Both are viable for survival, of course, unless you pick a fight with a penguin. Then you might have problems. The one called Fish Lover, Troy McClure. Them are Firelems. Both have their own advice for dealing with ancient dangers. Firelems mentioned how trade caravans are extremely useful for helping with whatever is deep inside. Just crack them open and lead whatever horrors inside to your new friends. Firelems also mentioned the best way to open up a danger is using your pawn's firearms to actually blast the walls down. I agree. For one thing, it lets your pawn stay back, away from the danger, not to mention react to whatever's inside. Plus, you now have your own little choke point set up, and the enemy can't come outside right while you're not shooting at them. Instead, you're shooting at them while they come outside. Very good stuff. Though Fish Lover did bring up way to use ancient dangers to get side links and loot. If you have royalty and also an infestation hive spot, say from infested cave areas or the ancient danger, you can set up a party spot right in the area and then summon them for a normal bestowing ceremony. Do make sure, number 1, it's a bestowing ceremony that works only with gathering spots, and 2, turn off all gathering spots' ability to cause pawns to naturally gather. This way, those royal bestowers will have no choice but to walk into the worst location for rituals. So yeah, just watch the fireworks. Either your bugs will be eliminated or your bestowers are dead and their gear is yours. Best part, they consider it an accident, so maybe you should try this again and again. Bet a certain Brit who spiffs would enjoy this bit of cheese. Bass Zotek brings up a very good point when it comes to corpses. Check them. See if a corpse had any addictions. Guess what? They spawn with whatever substance they need. This works with normal raider corpses too, some random ones found in ruins, so check them pockets when needed. Back to Fire Lems, they provided us a lot of tips and tricks in this video, holy cow. If you are planning to use drugs in the colony, they suggest to only save them for pawns who are expendable. Ones who, in the event of say a heart attack from wake-up addictions that run out, or just a 3-week all-nighter binge that leads to people trapped in an MMO, oddly specific, Bren, now you don't lose anyone valuable. Chem fuel should always be put in separate storage rooms. Yes, thank you, and we keep saying it. I'm glad other people are realizing that. Plenty of stories out on the rim of people wondering why their whole base went up with flames when 7 out of 10, it's usually caused of poor chem fuel placement. The other 3 are either from boomalope heart attacks, pyromaniac pawns, both friendly and unfriendly, and of course, Randy Random causing an electrical short. And speaking of strong stuff, early on, set an area for transport pods in your workshop. Keep it close to the storage area. Seriously, when you start getting into heavy crafting or just delivering pawns and items to places, you will thank me later. I also should mention that this goes with transport ship areas, great for moving stuff into the base ASAP. Finally, for defenses, set up choke point walls. What this means is wall openings without doors. This way, enemy raiders will go through there. After all, no doctor means no way blocking them. I mean, besides the angry colonists who do not want to hear about the church of face smashing the raiders follow. Set up these key choke points either through the inside of a base's hallways in the event of a break-in, or throughout the outside of the base in like a tiered walled system. Do keep in mind breach raids and drop pods will still be a pain, but hey, the sky is blue, what else is new? Yeah, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So not really a tip, but a fun fact from Curran. Did you know that the High Stellar can spawn with a metal whore, but because they can't, or rather won't do work, they can't infect pawns, aside from sharing a bed with another pawn, though that's pretty unlikely. Just a fun little quirk of the game, though can't help but now imagine King Eldritch Horror now. The Black-Clad Wanderer's advice is about wood collecting. His suggestion is rather than having your pawns ordered to chop wood, you set up a growing zone in an area and mark it as allowed sowing off. Now, whenever there are fully grown plants, pawns will automatically harvested. Works on ambrosia plants that sprout up too, by the way. This is a good way to keep up on wood collection for day-to-day life and only giving a wood harvest order when needed. Back with Dr. Wicked. He provided a lot of advice as well. No, seriously, man. Thanks for the entries. Let's see. First up, toxic waste packs. If you have Anomaly and a whole lot of toxic waste packs, just wait for a giant pit to open, filled with angry walls of meat. Guess what? You can in fact bury your problems, both the meat and the garbage, since pollution doesn't affect the surface. Though I don't know the effect of eldritch garbage demons, the inhumanoids, I bet there is like only 3 people who even get that reference. For your outfit stance, disallow everything on the outfit. That way, no one messes with them, without a direct order of course. Great for setting up emergency armor setups when needed without the the worry of some hauler moving them out. Oh, and speaking of outfits, did you know nudists actually can wear clothing hats? Yes, hats doesn't count as clothing for nudists, so you can give them devil strand cowboy hats or sun cones, or very nice wool turks to help with any weather situations. Still, don't recommend them going into space, feels like a disaster waiting to happen. Oh, and Yatkins, I can't say that one right, given they are nudists, are related to this. If you enslave a Yatkin, you can use their animal handling talents to tame a bunch of animals. How is this useful? Well, you can also tell animals to follow slaves while they work. While animals can't suppress slaves, though honestly I feel like if I were being followed around by Cujo, I might think twice before rebelling. If a rebellion does start, the animals can turn on the now hostile pawns. Oh, and cut out a slave tongue. This will prevent any chance of romance with a normal colonist. Yes, a normal colonist and a slave can get into a romantic situation. Better to silence them and not have to worry about the sleeping alone mood penalty because the slave version of Don Juan decided to woo your colonists. If your pawns hate corpses, set up corpse stockpiles outside of areas where pawns are permitted to go, but hauled bots or hauling animals can go. It's a good way to get rid of a bunch of rotting corpses. Alternatively, you can set up a refrigerated room near the animal pen only for animals to go in to eat your annoying salesman. Out of sight, out of mind. Though make sure you have a lot of hungry animals like pigs and wargs. He also brings up a good point with the beckon psycast. It's a simple one that beckons a pawn to come to the caster, preventing ranged attacks too. How is this important? Well, say you got a mechanoid ship part and a bunch of really dangerous sleeping mechs. You could beckon a mech over away from the ship part so that you can focus on hitting the ship part and spreading the angry mechanoids out away from the hitting the pawn. You can also do this to keep thrombos in your area if you want to keep trying to tame them and want more chances. Weaponize this. One could be a bit obvious, but it's still useful. Pawns with the trigger-happy trait are far better with weapons that spray and pray. Give them a minigun and you will be emulating the TF2 Heavy. Pawns who are careful shooters, meanwhile, should have weapons that do a lot of damage but are one-shot, like sniper rifles. But I also recommend Doomsday rocket launchers and the light. Trust me, you are gonna want someone who isn't gonna friendly fire your squad. Oh, and on the subject of weaponry, don't sleep on toxic gases or IEDs. They are great for trap hallways, as the gas is really good at spreading out and just slowing down or crippling incoming raiders. Not so good against mechs, insectoids, or waster pawns. But hey, everyone else you basically are tear gassing them. On to Roosh's suggestion to put windmills in front of farms. This is very useful in general, mostly because your crops don't block wind turbines. Just make the farms fit in the paths of both sides and you are good. What I also would like to mention is that solar panels can do the same thing as growing zones with crops, preventing trees from growing in the way of the wind turbine. Things to keep in mind for some good space management indeed. Goopster Drop would like to remind you to not overlook grenades and molotovs. They are very good in the early games as they don't require much aside from a source of chem fuel. Molotovs can be used for clearing corpses or a source of damage against unarmored fleshy targets. While grenades, well, sometimes you just need a good explosion. From Salty Rocks, Pew Pew, Braz, and Garge, we have an Odyssey bit of fun. Next time you are in space and have a Skycaster, try using the Skip Skycast. Why do I suggest this? Well, you can warp people into space. Kind of hilarious thing, really. Just drop them off into the void, wait for them to die. Honestly, just a silly interaction that makes sense and could be useful in the least dealing with really bad hostiles. Finally, Space Lizards. This one is really good if you are planning to do the ship escape in RimWorld. Build the reactor on your grav ship and then start it up. I think you see where this is going. Yeah, when raiders show up and it looks bad, just leave. Boom, there you go. leave to a new area, and then just wait them out. Sure, you might have to do more jumps, and maybe you might get unlucky with a raid between cooldowns, but this way, you can up your chances of not becoming a RimWorld statistic. Honestly, kinda hitting myself in the back for not thinking of this one, but hey, this is why I got you guys. So yeah, plenty of great advice from the community. Makes me proud to know we got each other's backs out here on the Rim. If you got any more advice, post in the comments. If you are looking for more advice, check the comments. Otherwise, I want to thank all the Patreons that support us and make videos like this possible. We could not do it without you. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in the next one.